If you're an OmniFocus 1 user and are either considering upgrading to OmniFocus 2 or have just upgraded and want some help getting started, then this video is for you. To help get you up to speed, I'll take you on a tour of the new user interface and we'll introduce you to some of the features that were introduced in OmniFocus 2. I'll start out by covering the standard version of OmniFocus, and later in the video we'll delve into some of the Pro features. While I won't have the chance to cover every detail of every feature, my goal is to give you enough instruction to get up and running on this new release. I'll delve into details on specific features, and we'll cover best practices in other videos and articles that will be available through the Learn OmniFocus website. When you launch OmniFocus 2 for the first time, you'll be greeted with this welcome screen and will be given the option to either store your data on the cloud or to keep the data on your Mac. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that you have your data stored in an OmniSync account. I can access the data stored in my OmniSync account simply by clicking Keep Data in the Cloud and entering my OmniSync server account name, which is Learn OmniFocus, and then clicking the right arrow. And once we're finished with the sync, I'll be given a few links to help me learn OmniFocus. We'll skip past these for now by clicking on the right arrow. And here we are in OmniFocus 2 with access to all of the projects and tasks that were synced from the OmniSync server. The first thing you'll likely notice is that the OmniFocus user interface has been completely redesigned. In designing OmniFocus 2, the Omni Group set out to modernize and simplify the user interface, and I think they've succeeded. If you're using the trial version of OmniFocus 2, which is available for download from the Omni Group's website, you can choose to put either the standard or Pro version of OmniFocus through its paces. And you can choose which version you want to evaluate by going to the OmniFocus menu, choosing Free Trial Mode, and then choosing either Try Pro Edition or Try Standard Edition from this menu. I'll use the Standard Edition for now, and we'll look at some of the Pro features later in the video. I'll expand the OmniFocus window so it fills up the full screen. And then we'll take a closer look at the OmniFocus user interface. The OmniFocus window is divided into 4 areas. There's a toolbar that runs across the top of the window, a sidebar along the left side that is displaying a list of projects organized by folders at the moment, and the main content area, which is where you'll interact with tasks. The 4th area is the inspector, which is currently hidden. In OmniFocus 1, the inspector was a separate window, but in OmniFocus 2 it's integrated into the main window, and it can be toggled on and off by pressing the Inspect button in the toolbar. We'll look at the inspector in more detail in just a moment. Let's take a closer look at the toolbar that's been greatly simplified in OmniFocus 2. On the left side of the toolbar, there's a sidebar button that allows you to hide and reveal the sidebar. The New Action button can be used to create a new task, and the Cleanup button cleans up the current view and moves items where they belong. Quick Open is a new feature of OmniFocus that allows you to quickly jump to a perspective, folder, project, or context, and we'll come back to that one in a moment. And View allows you to filter what is displayed in the current view, and again we'll be looking at that in a bit more detail shortly. And to the right of View, there's a search box that allows you to filter the current view by typing. For example, if I type Robert, I'll see all of the tasks, projects, and notes in the visible content that contains this term. I'm just going to clear that for now. As we saw earlier, the Inspect button can be used to hide and show the inspector. And the Sync button manually syncs the data to the OmniSync server. The sidebar allows you to access different views or perspectives of your OmniFocus projects and tasks. Right now we're looking at a list of all of the projects in this OmniFocus database sorted into folders. I can collapse and expand these folders just by clicking on the folder icon. Other perspectives that are available through the sidebar are the inbox and contexts, and some new ones that we'll explore shortly, specifically forecasts, flagged, and review. Now let's take a closer look at the main task area. I'll click the inbox and then click the New Action button to add a new task to my inbox. Tasks now have two lines. The first line contains the name of the task, and the second line is used to specify details such as the project and the context. For this example, I'll enter a task of water plants, and then I'll press the Tab key and start typing the name of the project. In this case, I'll put it in a single action list called Home Maintenance. Then I'll press Tab again, and I'll specify the context. And this is something that specifically needs to be done at home, so I'm going to give that a context of home. And then press Tab again, and at this point I can specify the defer date, which used to be called the start date. Let's say this is something that I'm planning to do on Saturday, so I'm going to type SAT for Saturday and press Tab. And you'll notice that OmniFocus has automatically filled in the date for me. And I'm going to leave the due date blank for now. Now let's have a look at this task I just entered in the inspector. I'm going to press the I button in the toolbar to reveal the inspector. And you'll find the functionality is pretty much the same in OmniFocus 2 as it is in OmniFocus 1. Though there are a couple of changes that I want to point out. The inspector now includes buttons to conveniently add a day, a week, or a month to either the defer until or due dates. In addition to being able to access notes inline as you could in OmniFocus 1, you can now view and edit notes right within the inspector. There's also the ability to hide and reveal features of the inspector, so if there are things that you don't use very often, you can click the disclosure triangle to hide that part of the inspector, and then click it again to reveal it once again. Since this is a task that I want to perform regularly, I'm going to make it a repeating task by clicking on Don't Repeat and changing it to Defer Another, and then we'll make the cycle the default 1 week. As was the case in OmniFocus 1, the inspector will show different options depending on what's selected. For example, if I switch to the Projects view and click on Car Maintenance, I'll see options for this project. Each project has a note field as well, which is handy to enter a short summary of the project. And if I switch to the context perspective and select a context, then I'll see options related to that context. Next, let's take a look at the preferences that are available in OmniFocus 2. The first thing you'll likely notice is that the Preferences dialog has been greatly simplified. There are some new options available, and others such as the ability to customize details of the user interface have been removed, which is probably a good thing as this was one feature that encouraged fiddling. On the General tab, you have the option to control the text size, making the text larger or smaller if needed. Let's stick with the default value of medium for now. Setting up the clippings feature in OmniFocus 2 for Mac is quite different from OmniFocus 1, and this is something we'll cover in more detail in a separate video. On the Dates and Times tab, there's now an option to specify the defer time for defer dates. And OmniFocus now takes advantage of the macOS notification managers and allows you to control what specifically you want to be reminded about. There's also the option to highlight perspectives, and we'll look at a specific example of this in just a moment. And there's a new option to publish due items as calendar alarms, and we'll cover that in detail in a separate video. Now I'll close down the Preferences dialog, and we'll have a look at some of the new features in OmniFocus 2 that are inspired by similar features in the iPhone and iPad versions of OmniFocus. First, let's have a look at Forecast. This perspective shows you a calendar with a number indicating how many items are due on each day for the next month. If there are items that are due soon, you'll see a yellow bar beside the Forecast sidebar item. And if this bar turns red, it means that one or more items are overdue. You can view which items are due on a given date simply by clicking on the date. I'll click on May 30th as an example. If you've given OmniFocus permission to access your calendar data, you'll also see your appointments below the tasks. This can help avoid scheduling a full day of meetings the same day you have a lot of tasks due. By clicking the View button, you can customize this perspective. You can choose to show only the next week in the sidebar, and can control whether deferred items are displayed in addition to due items. You also have the option to specify the start and end time of the calendar display, and to choose which specific calendars are displayed in line with the tasks. And I'll click the View button in the toolbar to dismiss these options, and let's have a look at the flagged perspective. As the name implies, this provides convenient access to the tasks that you've flagged as important. By clicking on the View button, you can choose which flagged items you want to display and how the flagged items are sorted. I'm just going to close those options for now by clicking on the View button once again. When you click on Review, you'll see a list of all of the projects that are up for review. The idea is to go through each of these projects one by one, and once you've made any necessary changes or addition, click the Mark Reviewed button. Reviewed projects will automatically reappear in the review list when they're once again up for review. The default review cycle is 1 week, but you can change the review frequency on a project-by-project basis, and you can also change the default review cycle in the Dates and Times tab of the Preferences dialog. Another great new feature is Quick Open. You can access this feature by clicking the Quick Open button on the toolbar, by choosing Quick Open from the File menu, or by pressing Command O. So I'm going to select Quick Open, and I get a window that allows me to start typing the name of a perspective, folder, project, or context, and be taken directly to that view. For example, let's say I'm in the middle of a weekly review, and I think of a task to add to my planned trip to Ireland project. I'll start to type the word Ireland, and you'll see that OmniFocus has found that project. And I'm going to choose to open this in a new window so I don't lose my place, and then click the Open button. At this point, I can add a new task simply by pressing the Enter Return key. And the specific task is to purchase some euros. So I'll have some cash to take on my trip. And I'm going to press Tab. This is specifically an errand. And this is something I'm planning to do, let's say on Monday. So I'm going to type MON into the defer field. So now I've got my task. While we're here, just another thing to point out is I find much more obvious, much more intuitive how to reorder tasks. So if I wanted to drag this one down, I just grab this task and then drag it to the specific place in my project. And when I'm done making changes to this project, I can simply close this window and I'm back where I was in the review feature. I can also use Quick Open to access a specific context. For example, if I wanted to see a list of all the errands that are available, I could press Command O and start typing that context name errands. And you'll notice that the Open in New Window setting has been preserved. So I can either deselect that and change it back to the default, or I could just press Return or click on the Open button to see a list of all of the available errands in a new window. And again, once I've done reviewing this and making any changes, I simply close down the window to go back to where I was. Next, let's check out some of the Pro features by choosing Free Trial Mode from the OmniFocus menu, and then choosing Try Pro Edition. A reminder that this option will only be available if you're using the trial version of OmniFocus. When I switched to the Pro mode, another button appeared on the toolbar, and that's the Focus button, which allows me to focus in on a specific area of my database. For example, if I click on the Projects tab and then choose the Personal folder, I can click Focus and only see projects and folders that are contained within Personal. A bar appears under the toolbar indicating that I'm focused on Personal. And I can unfocus either by clicking the Unfocus button on the Focus bar or by clicking Unfocus on the toolbar. And this focus will be maintained as I click on sidebar items. For example, if I click on Forecast, I'll only see personal items that are coming due. And if I click on Flagged, I'll only see personal items that are flagged. And if I click on Review, I'll only see personal projects that are up for review. For now, let's click Unfocus so we're back to seeing a list of everything. Another key feature of the Pro Edition is perspectives. If I click on the Perspectives menu, I'll see a list of all the perspectives that come pre-installed with OmniFocus 2, as well as any that were created in OmniFocus 1. Let's create a new perspective called Personal that shows all available personal tasks. I'll choose Add Perspective from the Perspectives menu, and then give this perspective a name, so I'll call it Personal. Then I'll specify the criteria that will determine which items are displayed. I'll make this window a little larger so we can see more of the options. I'll start by giving the personal perspective an icon. So I'll click on the arrow and I'll choose the house icon in this case. And I'm going to specify don't use project hierarchy so that I can see the context on the sidebar. And by choosing this option, I'll also have access to this perspective on my iOS devices. I'm going to choose to group actions by project, and then I'll leave the sort actions by project selected as well. In this case, I'm interested in tasks that have any status. I'm specifically interested in ones that are currently available. And I'm going to leave the filter by duration set to any duration. By choosing Filter Context to Active, then I'll only see the contexts that are related to available tasks, so that keeps the context list much shorter typically. And lastly, I'm going to change the focus to only show items within the Personal folder. If this is a perspective I'm likely to use frequently, I can click on the star beside the perspective name to add it to the sidebar. Now, anytime I want to see a list of personal items that are available, I simply click Personal on the sidebar or select it from the Perspectives menu. If I want to make any changes to this perspective in the future, I can click the View button in the toolbar, change any of the settings, and then click Save. The Pro Edition also has support for AppleScript, so you can automate OmniFocus-related workflows, either using scripts that you've written yourself or those you've downloaded from the internet. Hopefully this gives you a good taste of what's possible in OmniFocus 2 for Mac, and many thanks to the wonderful folks at the Omni Group for all the time and effort they put into bringing this major release to fruition. I'm Tim Stringer from Learn OmniFocus. Thanks for watching.